2019, before that all happened, we were the biggest event in our field in the entire world. The little Linz, the little city we are coming from, with about 220,000 people living there, compared to the size of the festival, said everything. So we had in 5 days more than 100,000 visitors from more than 80 different countries, coming from all over this world, seeing something that would give reason enough to jump in a plane and to take the time and to make the impact together with others who are thinking more or less the same. And then the pandemic came. We hired an entire team doing the next step in our evolution, growing a little bit more, seeking for the next record to beat. And all of a sudden you realize that everything that you had like as a recipe in your pockets or in your minds would not work anymore. And then, sure, creatives as we are said, come on, I mean, it's not the first time that we reinvented ourselves. But reinventing yourself like 10 times a day, almost 1.5 years, is doing something to the swarm and to the individual. So I can say we accomplished this exercise successfully because we simply survived there as an institution, but also as the team that loved so much what we did before and what we drove before to a limit, or let's say over its limits. That was so to speak our attitude. And then you realize that you have a wonderful team that is totally wrong skilled. Because we decided to go hybrid. We said then in these times where the politicians would not mention the culture and the artists, we were simply not part anymore of the food chain. And then we said, okay, good. We need to change ourselves, reinvent us in our formats and jump on this stage again, just for the sake of saying we are still here. And so that changed our culture. Before it was that we controlled the curatorial processes. At that time it was much more breaking the lens about the species that we represent in Little Austria, but that you will find all over the world, like we find them here in Belgrade. And to invite them simply to jump on this train, to utilize us in whatever form, but not to disappear. And there was a law that we said this: the digital is not a place to escape. The digital is just a place, this metaverse space where we can find a new common, manage and organize ourselves to land then on another place where we again can live with the old rules that are so desperately important for us in our nature. Empathy, hugs, kisses, love, all these things that were slightly disappearing in these two-dimensional negotiations we had. I know many of my colleagues who said, well, I could stay ever in this state. But me, my little self, and this what I took from my parents and from the place where I come from and I came from, I need to meet others. I measure the quality of my life and in the intensity and quality of the hugs that I get of the friends that I meet. So the vessel and the method was that we created the biggest culturally or artistically driven world garden show the world has ever seen, the universe has ever seen. With the metaphor of a journey of traveling and the garden, we hit the point. We understood afterwards that there is not a single culture that would not immediately create an image when you ask about gardens. Is it Azerbaijan? Is it Saudi Arabia, Riyadh? The Riyadh people say, you know what Riyadh means? It's garden. You know, I mean, it was such an overwhelming, in the most positive sense, wave that convinced us to go further. So in the first edition we ended up with more than 180 different partners running their individual gardens. And the garden has, let's say, 3 very strong metaphors embedded. It is about our relationship to nature, and it becomes more and more important to, in whatever concept, whatever ground you are growing up, you have to embed this question how you stand to this environment around us, to the nature, where you position yourself. It is always a question of resources. So what relationship do I have with the nature around me so that I treat it in a way that I can get an harvest? And it is also a lot about that we should be aware that we cannot break time. Yeah, talking about gardens with partners was the easiest thing on it. And we were asking them to, whatever they do, try to transform every kind of compromise that you have in an opportunity, even when it's economically totally crazy. But economically, what is not crazy in these times, okay? So the law or the rule was open your garden for the sake of your community and use the digital to link them again to this world show, to actually what the festival in Linz one time, in this one week, in this one weekend is. It is a gathering of people that are all coming from different cultural backgrounds. They are all coined by their culture. They are driven by the same questions, and they come together, and we are celebrating the endless, wonderful diversity this planet has. I would say on the one side the role hasn't been changing. Whatever situation we are facing, it is about that we as a global society need more best practice samples of collaborating. The challenges that we have been already facing before this pandemic were anyway so big. I mean, these fires kept burning out there. That the only way out there is collaborating. And art and science, let's say art as science, then is just a perfect love couple, I would say, because science needs in its ground idea always somebody helping to create some ethical momentums. But specifically to your question, come on, I mean, what we see in whatever culture we are landing, whoever we meet, we see a big divided society. A divided society that all of a sudden would ignore totally the endeavor generations before already started in getting deeper, in educating ourselves, in creating new fields where we dig so deep that we understand or that we create awareness. And that we are all of a sudden living in a time where majorities or huge parts of our society would simply ignore the achievements of science, would put that back on this level of magic or wonder things, or treat it like some religions you are against, or treat it some politician tendencies where you would not share the opinion, is a phenomenon of our time, one of those phenomena that I cannot tell you how sad it makes me, because the life that we get on this wonderful planet is a one-time opportunity. And the little compromises, we are so close that we could solve this problem and to focus again on the real major challenges out there, and that we cannot achieve this in whatever city I come, in whatever culture that I'm able in these times to meet and to getting exchange, is really an outstanding phenomenon, a global phenomenon similar to the pandemic, but it is a very dangerous one. The beginning was that there was simply an offer of the European Union, an offer that was very, well, fragile in its formulation, but we found ourselves together with other partners in a very specific interpretation of that. And it is, and it was, and it will be a break in the lens about the relationship between the arts and the science, with this little piece of technology that the global society has been facing since a few years, called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a new category. It is, so to speak, the technology that represents the autonomization of the automatization. That means that everything that we invent is doing the things without remote control of humankind. And this is, for sure, a challenge, but for sure an opportunity. And it is in general about demystifying technology, to make it as a tool where it's meant to be, due to our limitations of our very average sensorics, with this add-on called Brain, we developed technology. In music, we call them instruments. And the AI Lab is a wonderful group of different cultural perspectives, making the cultural Europe. There is no one perspective, with different backgrounds, different scales, different cultural orders, coming together to discuss this together, to invite artists to jump into that, financially support. Yeah, and to create something for their own community again. I'm back to this garden metaphor. And today, I can tell you, we closed, so to speak, a circle in a way. We came to Belgrade together with all the other partners from entire Europe to present ourselves what we did with this opportunity. And you know, one thought and endless, diverse, meaningful, proactive and hopeful samples is the result. And for those living here in Belgrade, I just want to invite you to come to this place where I'm currently, because there you see this interweaved situation of where technology started with us, or we started with technology, what we did with that and where we are going to go. And artists are those who are showing us this, who are bringing in light in this uncertainty the future brings.